Fantastic day to one and all. Today we are going to ponder on the lesson, the things around us. Okay, this is a lovely butterfly here, and these flowers are known as lady's lace, and it's a lovely butterfly. Okay, it's a breathtaking picture, I must say. I really liked it. Okay, let's begin with the introduction. Look at the things around you. Some of these things are natural. Something that is natural exists or happens because of nature, not because it was made or done by people. Some of the things around you are not natural but are created by human beings. They are all living, non-living, or dead. All animals and plants are living things. Biology is the study of these living things. Biology is really interesting. Put all the things you can see around you into these categories. Now here it's your duty to make a list of it. This butterfly, once again I must say, it's really breathtaking. I guess it must be because I love nature. Okay, now let's begin with the lesson. First and foremost, the name of the lesson is Things Around Us. Now let's see the characteristics of living things. The smallest living part of an animal or a plant that is able to function independently is a cell. All living things are made of cells. We cannot see cells with the naked eye. They are visible only under a microscope. When a group of cells work together to perform a function, they form a tissue. Several tissues forming a specific function form an organ. Such a structure of a living organism is known as a cellular structure. Some plants and animals have only one single cell, for example, amoeba. They are also known as unicellular organisms. Now these are the cells, this is the tissue, this is the organ, this is the organ system, and this is the organism. Plants and animals that have bodies which are made of many cells are known as multicellular organisms. Non-living things do not have a cellular structure. Okay, now this is a cellular structure of a living organism. Okay, these are once again the cells, the tissues, the organ, and the organic organ system make the organism. Now living things respond to stimuli. If we touch a hot iron by mistake, we pull back our hand instantly, isn't it? A plant automatically grows towards the sunlight. Living things react to changes around them. We react to sudden touch, bright light, heat, cold, and sound. These responses to environmental changes or stimuli are seen only in living things. Non-living things and dead organisms do not respond to stimuli. Now who is this? This is Aristotle. Okay, between 384 to 322 BCE. Now what does BCE stand for? Before Common Era. Aristotle lived in the 4th century BCE in Greece. Where did he live? In Greece. When he was around 18 years old, he went to Athens to study at Plato's academy. Plato was a great Greek philosopher and a scientist. Aristotle remained at the academy for nearly 20 years. Later, Aristotle became the tutor of Alexander, who went on to become one of the greatest emperors of all time. Aristotle wrote on philosophy, politics, art, and literature. It was Aristotle who first classified living things into different categories. For example, he made two categories, one of the animals with blood and another of the animals without blood. He further divided animals with blood into those that gave birth to young ones and those who laid eggs. He also divided animals into three groups according to how they moved by walking, flying, or swimming on land, air, or water. His system of classification was used until 1600 CE, that is 1600 Common Era. Now let's go to activity number 1. Observe different plants under the microscope. Compare and contrast cells and tissues. Things required: microscope, Elodia plant, onion slides, cork, droppers, iodine stain, prepared and clean microscope slides. Now this, children, we will have to show you the demo, so we will be showing it to you. Okay, we will have to show you the procedure. Elodia plants are found in fresh water and are common aquarium plants. The Elodia plant is much simpler, that is, it has a less complex structure than the onion or plant cork. An onion bulb is the root of the onion plant. Cork is found as the outer layer of stems and roots of woody plants and also has a protective layer that forms when a plant is damaged. Water conservation and protection are the functions of cork. Removing the cork does not harm the tree. What is the procedure? Place a small thin piece of Elodia, onion and cork on one side. Put a little iodine on each, less than a drop. Slide. If you are using a light microscope, make sure the pieces of Elodia, onion and cork are very thin. You may need to place a drop of water and use a cover slip on the top of the specimens. When you look at the three types of plants, the common structure that can be seen in all three plants specimens is the cell wall. In all three specimens, children, is the cell wall. Looking at the cork tissue under the microscope, you will see empty cells. Note down the common characteristics of a plant cell. Now this will be shown via media to you and explained to you in detail in class. Okay, now let's see about the living things growing. A seed develops into a sapling. Okay, this is a seed developing into a sapling. This is a young stem, this is a plumule, and this is how it keeps growing. And a chicken develops into a hen. As living things grow, they add on new cells and tissues. Living things become larger and more complex as they grow. When living things eat, they gain energy. Some of this energy is used by living organisms to grow. Non-living things and dead organisms do not grow. Now, do you know, let's see what this do you know has in store for us. Phototropism is the property of some plants that grow or move towards or away from the light. Plants have photoreceptors, which are light-sensitive cells. These cells help plants sense the presence of light and respond to it. Why do you think plants turn towards the light? A plant growing towards a cell. Now this is for you to think. Okay. Now this is a child growing into an adult. We all are going to grow like that. Okay. I have already grown and you are going to grow. Now this is the activity number 2. Carry out this experiment to study the germination pattern of seeds of different plants. And what are the things that you will require? You will require stapler and staples, water, 10 different types of seeds, 1 sealable sandwich bag, 1 tissue paper, and the string or thread. Okay, now what are the directions Fold a tissue paper so that it fits into the sealable plastic bag. Carefully place a row of seeds across the top of the tissue paper. Place a piece of string or thread over the top of the seeds. Attach the seeds to the tissue paper by stapling the string so that there is a staple on each side of seeds to hold them in place. Do not staple the seeds. Dip the tissue paper into a shallow bowl or a tray of water so that it is saturated. Place the tissue paper inside the plastic bag. Seal the bag and hang it. Okay, now this is the tissue paper. These are the staples where you are going to put. This is the thread. These are the seeds and this is the plastic bag. This is how you are going to set it. Okay, and then you are going to observe about the seed, all the seeds. Day 1 what happened, day 2 what happened, day 3 what happened, day 4 what happened, and on day 5 as to what happened. And after you finish that, you are going to answer this question. What do plant seeds need to germinate? What changes the seeds and seedlings undergo during germination and early growth? Compare the germination pattern of the seeds in the observation table, and you are going to jot it down over here. Okay? Now, let us see about living things need food. All living things need to consume food in order to obtain energy, grow and stay healthy. Plants, however, do not eat. They make their own food using carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. This process is called photosynthesis. You know that animals are consumers and depend on plants and other living organisms to derive nutrition. Non-living things and dead organisms do not feed. Living things breathe. Living things exchange gases with the environment. Living organisms need energy to carry on a series of functions. They need oxygen to be able to convert food into energy. Animals take in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide by the process called breathing. Exchange of gases also takes place in plants through openings called stomata in leaves. Different animals have different ways of carrying out breathing process. Earthworms breathe through their skin. Fishes use their gills to take in oxygen present in the surrounding water. Plants breathe by absorbing oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide in the environment. Non-living things and dead organisms do not breathe. Okay, that means only living things breathe. Non-living things do not breathe. Living things need food and non-living things do not need food. Now, living things excrete. The living organisms perform different life processes such as digestion and respiration. It produces different kinds of waste during these processes. The processes of removal of waste from the body is known as excretion. If this waste is allowed to remain in the body, it could become toxic. Non-living things and dead organisms do not excrete. Now, living things move. Living organisms show movement of one kind or the other. The movement from one place to another is called locomotion. Different organisms show different kinds of motion, such as walking, hopping, flying, and crawling. Now, living things reproduce. All living things produce young ones. The process by which living organisms produce babies or young ones of their own kind is called reproduction. See, can you see this lovely chicks over here, isn't it? This is the mother hen with the beautiful chicks. For example, human beings give birth to babies, cats give birth to kittens, and pigeons lay eggs. Plants also reproduce. Most plants make seeds which can germinate and grow into new plants. In some plants, a part other than the seed can grow into a new plant. For example, Cuttings of rose bush are used to grow new rose bushes. Non-living things cannot give birth. Okay, so only living things can give birth, non-living things. The bench will not give birth to a bench, is it? Will a pencil give birth to a pencil? Impossible. So, to produce another living thing, what is needed? A living thing. Okay, now let's see, before we proceed further, let's see what this interesting activity 3 is about. Take a walk in the garden. Ooh, that's what I love. Or near your school. Of course, for now the school is closed. List all the living and non-living things you see. I would love this nature walk. Now study the list of living things that you have made. Do you see a lot of variety in them? Try and put them in different groups according to the similarities you see in them. For example, categorize them on the basis of their size, the food that they eat, the ways in which they move. Okay, now let's see about, now this is what you're going to do. Take a nature walk, that's it, and jot down everything that you see. Okay, there's this, what is that? There's this lovely song. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the good God made them all. Now this is what I think, so I will hum as I go on my nature walk. Okay, now living things also have a lifespan. Each type of living thing has its own life cycle. The changes that happen in the life of an animal or a plant is known as its life cycle. Living organisms follow a cycle having different stages from their birth. For example, as they grow, attain maturity, and finally die. The time taken to complete a life cycle is called a lifespan. We all have a lifespan, okay? Because we are living things, we will, we are born and then one day we have to go, okay? Seasonal plants grow and die within a season. The bristle cone pine trees have life cycles which go on for thousands of years. Now, my goodness, this is news, children. I want you to find out what's the bristlecone pine tree. Okay, do a research on it. Now, this is the life cycle of the frog and this is the life cycle of a butterfly. You can see how it grows on from egg to become an adult, and here also the egg to a adult frog, and the frog again keeps giving birth. So the vicious cycle goes on and on and on. Okay, let's come to the activity number 4. Compare the life cycle of a butterfly and the frog, and how many stages do you see in the two life cycles? What are the names of the different stages? Make a life cycle of human beings by sticking photographs of the person in various stages of his or her growth. Now this activity, you're supposed to do it. Alright, now let's go to do you know. The animal with the longest lifespan is the giant tortoise. It can live up to 177 years. My goodness me. On the contrary, the gastrorich, a tiny aquatic animal, has an extremely short lifespan. It lives only for 3 days. This is news to me. Find out the expected average lifespan of the living creatures listed in the table below. And this is for you to do. Okay? Then let's have a discussion on it in the class. Alright, now checkpoint also, we will be discussing it in school, in person, and we'll have what you can say, a discussion, and then we will enter. Now living things evolve. Living things have the ability to adapt to the environment through evolution. Evolution is the process by which living things gradually change and develop over millions of years. During evolution, organisms develop abilities to cope with their environment. That's great. Okay, all living things or organisms are different from each other in some way or the other. There are many factors that cause this variation. One of them is the environment in which an organism lives. All living things depend upon their environment. The word environment comes from the word environ, which means surroundings. The environment in the surrounding in which a living organism lives. Okay, it is also called the habitat of a living organism. The environment consists of two major components, the living world and its biotic component, and the non-living world, that is the abiotic component. Biotic means living. The biotic components comprises of all living organisms. Plants, animals and microbes are the major components of the biotic world. The abiotic components consist of three major components, that is the lithosphere, hydrosphere and the atmosphere. Now let us see this do you know. I get very interested when I come to do you know, because you get to learn a lot of things. Here are some Greek words and their meanings. Okay, let's see what are the Greek word and let's see what's its meaning in English. It's atmo, which means vapor or air. Then there's hydro, which means water. Litho means rock or stone. Bios means life. I'm sure you must be feeling great. You learned some Greek, isn't it? I'm so eager. Let's repeat them again. That's atmo, hydro, litho, and bios. Now we can tell everybody that we know a bit of Greek too, isn't it? Okay, now we come to the biotic components. That's the plants. Plants are living organisms. You know that the most plants are green because they contain chlorophyll, a green colored pigment. This pigment is mostly present in the leaves of a plant. This pigment traps solar energy or energy from the sun and converts it into energy that is used to make food, that's glucose, using carbon dioxide and water. This, as you know, is called photosynthesis. Photo means light. Synthesis means production. Some plants do not have chlorophyll. They cannot make food. They get their nutrition from the plants and animals. Okay, now let's see what this do you know is about. There are over 4 lakhs different species of plants. Plants can be small and simple like mosses or huge like the giant sequoia tree. Now I want you to find out, okay, what's this tree and gather information by surfing the net. Okay, then we go to the animals. There are over 20 lakhs of living species of animals. Animals depend upon other plants and animals for food and nutrition. Such organisms are called heterotrophs. Hetero means different and troph means method of taking food. Heterotrophs are further subclassified as herbivorous, carnivorous and omnivorous. Some plants and animals live on or inside other living organisms for food and cause them harm. These plants are called parasites. Examples are lice and leech. Some living organisms derive nutrition from dead and decayed matter. They are called saprophytes like mushrooms and fungi. They are also known as decomposers. Some animals feed on dead bodies of other animals. They are called scavengers. Example, vultures. Okay? Now we go to the abiotic components. The abiotic or non-living world consists of three distinct parts. That's the atmosphere, hydrosphere and lithosphere. Now coming to the atmosphere, the air blanket around the earth made up of several gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, hydrogen, neon, argon and water vapors form the atmosphere. And what's the hydrosphere? All the water on the earth's surface forms the hydrosphere. Water bodies such as seas, rivers, ponds, lakes and glaciers are the major forms in which water is present on earth. Now let's see what's lithosphere. Okay, the lithosphere is the rigid outer part of the earth consisting of crust and upper mantle. It extends to a depth of about 100 kilometers. Now, which are the three major parts of a biotic world? That is the lithosphere, hydrosphere and the atmosphere. Okay, now what's the composition of the earth? That's 21% of oxygen, 0.038% of carbon dioxide. Other gases are less than 1% and 78% is nitrogen. Okay, now let's come to the other abiotic features. That's the light and temperature are some of the other important abiotic factors required for the survival of the biotic world. Now light, plants need light to make their food grow and develop. The sun is a source of light for plants. The shoots of plants grow towards the light. Temperature, the earth is the only planet known to have life form on it. The reason is that it has optimum temperature for life forms to exist. Temperature is the measurement of how hot or cold something is. It is an important factor that regulates the distribution of plants and animals on the earth's surface. Did you get, children, whatever I am telling you? Now, plants and animals seen in colder regions such as two poles like the polar bear and snow leopard cannot survive at the equator, can they? No, because they have been created to survive in colder areas. Okay, similarly, those organisms seen in the hotter regions will not be able to survive in the poles. Am I right or wrong? That's natural, isn't it? Animals can be grouped into two categories, which are those animals whose body temperature does not fluctuate with environmental change or outside the temperature are known as warm-blooded animals. Now, before we proceed further, let us see what this do you know have for us. The total area of Earth which is covered by ocean is about 363 million square kilometers. Goodness me, this is 2/3 of Earth's surface. What a fantastic fact that is, children. Now let's proceed further. For example, human beings, polar bear, etc. Okay, animals whose body temperature changes with the outside environmental temperature are known as cold-blooded animals. For example, lizards, snakes, etc. Some cold-blooded animals hibernate to survive in the extreme climatic conditions. During hibernation, organisms reduce or lower their activity to survive the external conditions. For example, they enter caves or burrows in the ground to sleep until the freezing winter passes and come out only when the snow and ice begin to melt. Some animals move or travel away from the adverse atmospheric conditions in their habitat and then come back when the conditions are favorable. This process is called migration. Okay, now air, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen are very important components of air that are required for the survival of the biotic world. All living organisms require oxygen for respiration. Oxygen is taken in by all living organisms. However, only the green plants release the oxygen into the air during the process of photosynthesis. Similarly, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere by living organisms during respiration as a byproduct. Green plants absorb carbon dioxide to make food. Now let's see about water. The earth is called blue planet as about 70% of the earth's surface is covered with water. The very existence of life on this planet is due to the presence of water. It is a major component of all living cells. 90% of a cell is made up of water. Plants absorb water from the soil through their roots. Animals drink water or get water from the food they eat. Soil. The uppermost layer of the earth's crust is called soil. It is a major source of all minerals like iron, calcium, magnesium, aluminium, copper, and potassium. These minerals dissolve in water and are absorbed by the plants for their growth. Animals eat the plants and thus minerals are transferred into them and are utilized by them. In the next chapter, we shall study the interactions between the biotic and abiotic world in various habitats. Now, before proceeding further, I want to have a look at this activity 5. Go to the library or read on the internet about the role of trees in balancing carbon dioxide and oxygen percentage in the environment. What is the role of deforestation in changing the balance of the gases? What is global warming and how is carbon dioxide involved in this process? And that is all for you to see. Okay? Now, points to remember: all living things are made of cells. Living things respond to stimuli. Living things become larger and are more complex as they grow. Plants, the producers, can make their own food by photosynthesis. Animals are consumers and they are dependent on plants. Living things respire, excrete, move, and reproduce. Living things have a lifespan. The habitat is the surroundings around an organism. What is an habitat? If they will ask you this sort of question, you should be ready to write. The habitat is the surroundings around an organism. The environment consists of the abiotic and biotic components. Plants and animals form the biotic world. Lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere are the major components of the abiotic world. Now let's go through some important definitions. Cell, the smallest living part of an animal or a plant. What is a tissue? A group of cells working together to perform a function. What is an organ? Several tissues performing a specific function. What are unicellular organisms? Plants and animals which have only a single cell. What are multicellular organisms? Plants and animals having bodies made up of many cells. What is stimuli? Something that causes a reaction in a living organism. What is excretion? The process of the removal of waste from the body. What is life cycle? The cycle of birth, growth, attaining maturity, and finally death that all living organisms go through. What is evolution? The process by which living things gradually change and develop over a millions of years. What is habitat? The surrounding in which a living organism lives. What is a warm-blooded animal? Animals whose body temperature does not fluctuate with environmental changes. What are cold-blooded animals? Animals whose body temperature changes with a change in the outside environmental temperature. What is atmosphere? The layer of gases around the earth. What is hydrosphere? All the water on the earth's surface is called hydrosphere. What is lithosphere? The rigid outer part of the earth consisting of the crust and upper mantle. What is temperature? The measurement of how hot or cold something is. Now children, that's the end of the lesson. Hope you had a fantastic time. Just go on surfing the net about all the activities that you have to do and all the do you know pointers that were there in this lesson. Thank you for today.